At this point, you have probably heard of Star Citizen. It's one of the most infamous examples of crowdfunding gone wild. How wild? Well, Star Citizen was originally pitched on Kickstarter back in 2012 with a goal of $500,000, which was surpassed by over $1.5 million, earning a total of $2.1 million on that Kickstarter alone, which does sound like a ton of money, but is really a mere drop in the bucket of the current budget of $644 million. Most of that raised through continued crowdfunding via ship sales and other in-game items in the Star Citizen store. So surely with that kind of money and over a decade of development time, the game has to be just about finished, right? Well, no. The game was originally slated for a roughly 2014 release date. That was then pushed back to 2015, and then 2016, 2017. You can get an idea of where this is going. But what even is Star Citizen? Well, it's actually two different games now, apparently. Squadron 42, which was originally meant to be the single-player story mode, and Star Citizen, the online persistent universe. Again, these are two separate games now. That's news to me. Squadron 42 is supposedly feature complete and entering the polishing phase, according to a video put out about 6 months ago, but still no deadline was released, nor a release date mentioned, just that polishing can apparently take quite some time. Now, there's never been any bit of this campaign released to the masses, so we can't really discuss the quality of Squadron 42 beyond what's been presented in the released videos and announcement trailers, but what I and you can get hands-on with is the persistent universe, which is, I guess, what Star Citizen is in itself now. So join me as I try out what could be the single greatest game or the single greatest scam in video game history. Now, to actually play Star Citizen, you have to buy a starter bundle from the game store. That store you've heard so much about in articles with headlines talking about $48,000 bundles, which do exist, by the way. But you need not worry about dropping the price of a Chevy Silverado on a game. Which, funny too, this $48,000 bundle, you only have access to it after buying $1,000 of in-game content. At, 48 grand of some digital items. That's a lot. The taxes on that, which would be about $5,000, the sales tax alone, is more than double what we paid for my high school vehicle back in 2010, 2011-ish, so yeah. But anyway, there are plenty of more affordable starting bundles in the $40-ish range, much more reasonable. You see, this is how Star Citizen raises money, by selling these ships for real-world cash. You'll see these ships referred to as pledges or pledge ships, and once, or if, the game fully releases, they'll have some special benefits to them, but that's neither here nor there, doesn't really matter right now. Now, I wanted a ship that I could do a little bit of everything with, hauling cargo, engaging in space warfare, or a bit of tomfoolery. So I settled on a ship called the Cutlass Black, after reading through its brochure. I kid you not, each ship has a full brochure, like full-on PDF file like you would download from a car dealership, looking at like a high-end sports car, a high-end sedan. Every ship in the game has that. Keep that in mind. For a measly $125, I picked up the Cutlass Black and headed into game. Also, I'm just realizing this when I'm editing this now. That $125 starter pack that gets me the Cutlass Black and into Star Citizen apparently does not include Squadron 42 once it releases. Because why would the $125 bundle get you into both games? Who knows? I started out by completing the game's tutorial where the very basics of Star Citizen are explained to me. A couple of things to note off the bat. In my opinion, the 2011 PS3 HUD has got to go. You see, if you need to interact with something, you press F on your keyboard, and then that frees up your mouse to mouse over whatever object in the world you need to interact with. So let's say a bottle of water. Once you mouse over it, a menu pops up giving you options on what to do with said bottle of water. You can drink it, grab it, or store it. This menu is in this bright blue text. Every single menu in game is in this bright blue. In fact, your multi-tool, which is this holographic menu system where you accept jobs and manage just about everything in the game, is also in bright blue and white, like we're Iron Man in 2008. Now, this was cool looking in 2011 on like the PS3, but it gets old very, very fast. Many of the cities, especially New Babbage, have this sterile, bright, futuristic look to them. You know what sucks to look at in such a bright environment? That's right, bright blue! Now, of course in darker areas it's fine, but man, it's just rough to look at everywhere and really starts to wear down your eyes after you've been playing for hours. Anyway, right away I get a taste of what's to come with Star Citizen. After completing the tutorial, I was excited to jump into my ship and start exploring the world. However, I gotta get to my ship first, which means I gotta get to the spaceport. So I had to walk down to the elevators, take the elevator down to the lobby, walk to the metro station, wait for a train for quite a few minutes, then ride the train for several minutes to the spaceport, where I then had to take another elevator up to the actual spaceport and then call in my ship, where I then had to take another elevator to the hangar. Keep that journey in mind. Next, I decided to do some simple delivery jobs so I could practice flying and get used to my ship. I spent a couple of hours doing this, making a decent bit of money in the process, figuring out some of the more oddities of the game, if you will. Like how there's no vaulting system. So if your ship ramp, in the case of the Cutlass Black, not sure about other ships, but if the ship ramp is just a little bit too high up off the ground when you landed and you didn't really stop to check because, well, you're excited about playing this game for the first time, when you go to jump back into it, you're just kind of screwed because there's no vaulting. Even though you can stare over the edge of the ramp, if you can't jump up high enough, you're just boned. Now, there are some worlds that are low gravity that doesn't really matter on, but for a good chunk of the planets, yeah, this was a little bit infuriating. So, if you are stuck in the situation, you essentially have to respawn and recall your ship. So you respawn back to your home port, New Babbage for me, and then I have to do that entire run back down to the ship and call it back in. And since it's insured, I get it back for free, but I gotta wait 10 minutes on top of already having wasted 30 minutes doing that mission. And because I have to recall the ship, all the cargo gets wiped out from it. So, yeah, that mission's been failed now, all because we can't vault. Yeah. So that's an hour wasted. Now, as far as I can tell, the game is to scale, so if there isn't a jump point nearby, you're stuck flying to your destination in essentially real time. So there's that as well, which makes delivering boxes for hours on end kind of boring. So I decided to switch it up and try my hand at bounty hunting. In order to get a bounty hunting license, I was sent on a trial run, and well, the AI isn't that smart, let's say. So after that, I was sent on my first real bounty hunting mission, and this took me 15 minutes of flight time, by the way. And again, since my ship was destroyed, I had to do that nice little journey back down to the spaceport just to reclaim my ship and sit there for 10 minutes waiting for it to come back. That shit gets old fast. I kept dabbling in both professions over a few days and dozens of hours. Just imagine me as an armed postal service worker, essentially. Now, between these two occupations and these dozens of hours, one thing stood out to me. This game don't work. There were several instances where jobs were just broken and couldn't be completed. I had 2 delivery jobs that couldn't be completed because the game didn't recognize that I had delivered the box to the location for one mission, and then for the second one, someone had left the package stuck in the delivery box, so I couldn't deliver mine. I spent an hour running these 2 missions at the same time for nothing, and you have to pay for fuel as well, so I burned all that fuel for literally nothing. I lost money running these 2 jobs for I think an hour and a half. I also had bounty hunting jobs where the target just refused to show up. For example, one mission required me to go find this one guy at his hideout. I get there, kill everyone I can find, and I spent 2 hours looking for this guy, and he never spawns in. So again, hours lost for nothing. After doing some digging, just making sure it wasn't me missing something, this is apparently the norm with Star Citizen. Broken bounties, glitchy missions, terrible server lag, all part of a game with a budget $100 million over Red Dead Redemption 2's budget. And this game is still in alpha. That's right, after 12 years in development, everything you see here is still in its alpha state. So that leads to the question, how the hell does a game with a budget greater than the GDP of several small countries wind up in this state? The game has several chunks that do work well. Flying and space travel is generally done well. Space combat is also satisfying when you get an AI opponent that isn't fresh out of the IJN Naval Flight School. The cities and spaceports are neat and beautifully designed, but what makes a game has been pushed to the back burner, it seems, as more and more features keep getting shoved into the game. And not the features you might be thinking of. For example, a couple of years ago, it was announced that bed sheet deformation was being worked on. Clearly, that's the priority when entire missions can't be completed due to bugs and glitches. This is a reoccurring theme with Star Citizen. These little features keep getting added into the game, while many mainline systems just don't work properly, which leads to the game getting indefinitely delayed, which just makes me frustrated after playing it, because there's a ton of potential here. There are currently 4 main worlds to explore on top of quite a few small moons and space stations to visit. Imagine if the resources being wasted on bedsheet deformation, these other small, really pointless features, would instead be used to create new worlds, or hell, just even iron out the bugs that are already present in the game. Defenders of the game are quick to repeat talking points like, hey, the game's in alpha, the studio started from the ground up, or you just don't understand Chris Roberts' vision. Yes, I know Chris Roberts, he created Wing Commander back in the day. He has this vision of this ultimate space simulator, where you are a literal citizen of the stars and can pursue whatever occupation you want. I also understand that, yeah, he essentially started from scratch with this, but man, 12 years and $650 million for a buggy, incomplete mess that we can play right now with no release date given? The thing is, I'm actually pretty upset because you can see what this game could be if it's ever actually fully released. There's several moments throughout my playthrough with Star Citizen where I find myself going, you know what? I get it. I get what's happening here. But then you read about what's happening with the money and where the money's going and these features that keep getting added in, and you can't just help yourself but stop and think, wait a second. If all this time and money that's been spent developing these pointless features were instead redirected to just finishing the core game components and then going on to add in these features after the game gets released, surely that would be the proper business model, because you get the complete product out, you finally silence the naysayers, and then you keep adding on more and more features. So it's clearly the case that the financial support is there from the player base, and if you dig some into the Reddit and the forums, you can see that there is a good chunk of the player base that is fed up with what's happening. There's several players that are commenting things like, look, I've been supporting this game since 2011, 2012, 2013, whatever, but it's just what's going on. I'm literally like in my 40s now when I started supporting this game in my 30s, right? So what's taking so long? I don't know if maybe the income from the backers, if you call them that, these early access adopters, is just funneling this never-ending system of, we're going to keep delaying the game, we're going to keep working on these pointless features, or what. But you can clearly see how many do consider this game to be a scam, because this insane amount of money is being spent. You're well over double the development time for most AAA games, and even most indie games that are conquering, huge worlds with, like Baldur's Gate 3, for example. Larian Studios isn't exactly a AAA studios by any stretch of the imagination, and they created Baldur's Gate 3 in about 5-ish years with a sixth of the budget. And this is Baldur's Gate 3 with, thousands, well, probably millions of lines of dialogue, all these quest options and these different endings and things that I doubt any one person will be able to experience every single thing in Baldur's Gate 3 without dumping thousands and thousands and thousands of hours into the game. And they did it with a sixth of the budget. And sure, yes, it is something that's never been done before if it ever is fully realized, but then you see the packages popping up in the store, and the fact that there exists a whale store where if you spend over $1,000 you can then be invited to spend multiples, tens of thousands of dollars, and apparently there's even a store above that store for people that are really just throwing obscene amounts of cash at the game, which again makes you think, well, something's going on here that just isn't right. They're exploiting the backers. They're playing on the fact that, Chris Roberts did make Wing Commander. It was an excellent game and all that jazz. And they're just trying to separate people from their cash when we don't see really much progress in return for what's been paid into the game. But again, after playing it, I hope it comes out. I want it to be complete. I want to experience the completed vision of this game, but man, you gotta get it done before I'm 50, right? Who knows? That's 30 years from now. It might be done by then. It might not. So that's my 2 cents after trying out the game for myself. They do on occasion have free weekends where you can get in and play the game for yourself. And once you do buy into the game, the little $40 purchase where you buy a little small ship at the beginning, you can earn credits in game and then buy everything else. And everything that you could ever want in the game you can earn for free by just playing the game. So you gotta give them ups for that, right? But yeah, that's my 2 cents on Star Citizen, fellas. If you guys have anything to share, please share it in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys have a wonderful Sunday and wonderful weekend. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.